A banjo-eyed minstrel man named Eddie Cantor has been clowning before audiences for 48 years, making famous such songs as Making Whoopee, If You Knew Susie, and Ma, He's Making Eyes at Me, and a few hundred others. He's done just about everything there is to do in show business. It would be pretty hard to find somebody who has not seen or heard Eddie Cantor or felt the influence of his charitable works. Eddie grew up on the Lower East Side of Manhattan, was orphaned at the age of 2. When he was 14, he fell in love with a neighborhood girl. Her name was Ida Tobias. They've been happily married for 42 years, and I've heard it mentioned they have 5 daughters. This is the house where Ida and Eddie Cantor have been living for the past 4 years. It's a white frame bungalow high up in Beverly Hills, California. Good evening, Eddie.
Good evening, Ed.
How are you?
I'm fine. I wish you were here on the patio tonight of our home. It's just as pleasant as if you were a resident of Brooklyn.
Tell me, what's the volume you're poring over?
Well, this is a script of a piece called Seisman and Son, which I'm doing for Playhouse 90 on your CBS network in 2 weeks, 2 weeks from last night.
Well, isn't this something of a departure for you, dramatic acting?
Yes, it is, but it's a challenge, and I'd like to do it, and I feel when a person has reached almost the age of 65, he ought to start thinking about his future, you know.
Well, we're always glad to hear of a novice getting a real break. How do you like this new career?
Well, it seems all right, with the exception of learning a lot of words. There are 112 pages here, which I must memorize because it is live, you know.
Ah.
Live, and it might be the death of me.
That we won't see you clapping your hands and skipping around.
Oh, you mean this stuff?
Yeah, tell me, how did you happen to develop that style?
Well, it was, as a matter of fact, it was just nervousness. When I started to sing, this wasn't a song, but this will give you an idea. I started like, if you knew Susie like I know Susie, oh, 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 what a girl. And Gus Edwards, my first boss, he actually said to me, Cantor, it's a good idea because you're running up and down. It's much harder to hit a moving target, you know.
Well, Eddie, it was nice to meet Susie again, but what about Ida?
Oh, you mean the Duchess?
Yes.
I think you'll find her in this room here. Here's ever-loving Ida right now.
Good evening, Mrs. Cantor.
Good evening, Mr. Morrow.
Where are your daughters?
Oh, they're scattered around. 2 are in New York City and 3 here. 1 is in Malibu and 1 way out.
Wait a minute, you're talking as if we had 6. Is this a surprise?
No.
Well, Mrs. Cantor, how many grandchildren do you have?
Oh, we have 4. We have 2 boys and 2 girls.
Yeah, we've finally got some boys in my family by remote control, Ed, but we got them.
Mrs. Cantor, what do you do with your spare time now that you no longer have a house full of children?
Well, I still have a little baby right here that I've got to take care of.
Oh, please.
And in my recreation, I knit, I paint a little, I shop a little, I have this household to take care of.
She paints quite a bit. She's being very modest. Her room is just full of paintings, which she's done, Ed.
Eddie, I remember not too long ago somebody saying you look like a man of 40 and act like a man of 20. Where do you get all this energy?
Well, I haven't got as much energy as I used to have, but who has? Neither have you. But I budgeted my time and my energy. I don't think a fellow like me, who is a cardy actor, has the right to give somebody 20 minutes when he only deserves 10 minutes, and to see a lot of people which you shouldn't be seeing. You should conserve your energy, and I take a nap every day before dinner. I do a great deal of walking. I do a great deal of reading, and I do quite a bit of writing.
Well, now, along with a pretty busy show business schedule, you turned out, about a half dozen books.
That's right.
You still writing?
Oh, yes. Yes, as a matter of record, Ed, if you don't mind, excuse me, Ida, I'd like to take you, Ed, into this room, a room that's meant a great deal to me through the years. As a matter of fact, we have taken 48 years to build this room with all the pictures and everything, and here, very conveniently, is some of the new writing. It's a book called Take My Life, which I've done in the last 18 months with Jane Ardmore, a very fine writer. And it's Eddie Cantor actually in 4 parts. The men in my life, the women in my life, the best of my life, and the rest of my life.
Well, let's start at the beginning. Who were some of the men in your life?
I've had many men in my life. Gus Edwards, my first boss, Mr. Ziegfeld, Georgie Jessel, W.C. Fields, Jack Benny, George Burns, Will Rogers, who's had a great influence on my life. Here's a picture here, Ed, of Will Rogers at the Will Rogers Memorial Museum in Claremore, Oklahoma. He was probably the greatest man I've ever known, certainly the greatest man in show business. And the things that he said were actually timeless. I can recall back in 1918 at the White House in front of President Woodrow Wilson when he said, Mr. President, Congress will be asking you how you can train an army so fast. Well, you tell them when you train an army to go one way, you can do it in half the time.
Eddie,
Be just as good as if it was today.
Quite true. What about the women in your life, besides Ida and your daughters?
Besides Ida, my daughters, I had a very wonderful grandmother who brought me up. And then, of course, there's a lovable, wonderful, good friend, great comedian, Fanny Bryce, and the gorgeous Marilyn Miller, and Ann Pennington, and the very saintly, you must remember the name, Ed, very well, Henrietta Zold.
Yes. And what do you regard as the best in your life, Eddie?
Well, the best of my life, I believe, are the things that happened when the curtain dropped. Not in the theater, not as an entertainer, but the things that I've done as a man.
All right, what is the plan for the rest of Eddie Cantor's life?
The rest of my life, Ed, I'd like to devote to making for a better relationship between people, all kinds of people, all kinds of races and colors. I wouldn't like to leave the scene without seeing a more peaceful world, a more peaceful America, an America that is unified.
Well, Eddie, I would like to say this. A whole lot of people have benefited through the money you've helped raise for the March of Dimes, war bonds, United Jewish Appeal, Catholic Charities, Bonds for Israel, just to mention a few of your humanitarian efforts. I'm sure that you could never measure your own satisfaction from that, could you?
No, you can't, and yet every day you get a new thrill. Let me point out a picture to you, Ed, on my wall, which means so much to me. Here's a picture of me at a boys' camp, Cold Springs, New York, Surprise Lake Camp. 52 years ago this summer, I was sent to this camp by the Education Alliance, a charitable institution, and at the campfire, I sang my very first song. It was written by George M. Cohen, and went like this. H-A-R-R-I-G-A-N spells Harrigan. I'm proud of all the Irish blood that's in me, and the divil a word a man could say again me. And I was held over in this camp. All the boys stayed 2 weeks, I stayed 3 weeks, and just last month, on the very same spot where I sang Harrigan, they dedicated the Eddie Cantor Playhouse. And it was one of the most thrilling moments of my very young life. And another thrill. I point to these pictures, Ed, because they're here. There's a picture here of a children's home. I think you might have seen it when you were in Israel. It's between Haifa and Tel Aviv.
Yes, I remember.
Eddie Cantor's children's home, a home of orphans. Most of the children have lost their mothers and fathers. And I can recall the last time I was in Israel, Ida and I brought a case of chocolates to this home to deliver to the children. We passed out these chocolate bars. And I noticed in the corner one little girl with blonde curls, about 6 or 7, with thin, worn face. She hadn't touched a chocolate, and I was curious, and I went over to her and I said, "Young lady, what can I do for you?" And I heard the 2 saddest words I ever heard in my life. She said, "Love me." That's all she said. Love me. And These words have haunted me for many, many, many months afterwards.
I think no one can ever forget that. I remember Ben-Gurion saying that in Israel, in order to be a realist, you must believe in miracles.
How
Eddie,
true.
I think perhaps Ida must be thinking we're lost, don't you?
Oh, yes. I think we should go back to the Duchess. She might be through her jacks now. Ida? Ida, where? Oh, you're not here. Oh, you're in here. Ed, this is actually our living room, dining room. Ida and I spend a good part of our evenings in these two armchairs watching television. We are great television fans. We keep our television set in here, and we pull it out thusly, and we always thank Frank Folsom, who furnishes our television sets. And this is our place where we dine. When we have the money, we buy food and place it here, and we eat, and then we spend a great deal of time sitting here and just reminiscing of our days back in New York on the East Side.
Ida, do you have any formula for getting your husband to relax?
Oh, no, he hasn't relaxed in years. No,
Well-
I can't make him do that.
Well, now that he's home a little more, does he help around the house at all?
Oh, he makes a pretense.
Don't say I make a
Help me.
pretense, Ida. Ed, I give you my word of honor, in the last couple of months, many a time, I've gone into that kitchen and boiled tea, put it in a tea bag, I make my own tea, and it works. Just drop the tea bag in if you don't know, and then colors, and take it out when you like.
You know, it may be gremlins, but just when you were saying that, something went wrong with the picture. I don't know whether that has anything to do with your veracity or not, but it happened. Eddie, I suppose you'll always have some memories of the old days down on the Lower East Side, won't you?
Oh, yes. Yes, there isn't a day that goes by, Ed, that I don't think about it in some way. The poverty down there, the people trying to eke out an existence. That's why I believe very early in life I wanted to help people. Because I know these people from the East Side so well. The immigrants that came over from Russia and Poland and Italy and Germany. And even with all the poverty, they were so happy because of the opportunity which presented itself here. People who became important citizens in industry and in banking and in the political field, science.
And no one helped them more or entertained them more than you did, Eddie Cantor. And I think people that you have never met or heard of are much in your debt. And we are much in your debt and in Ida's for letting us come and visit you tonight. Thank you very much indeed. Good night.
Good night, Ed.
Good night, Ida.
Good night.
Thank you again. There are some of the people who made tonight's program possible. And now, from person to person, good night and good luck.